On today's podcast, we have Courtney White with us. A little bit about her and her background. She has been a teacher at Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara on a master's degree called Translation and Interpretation for Spanish and English. She is from the United States, and she is here to help us understand a little bit more about companies outside Mexico, and also for employees here that have been having that part starting here in Mexico, working here in Mexico. First of all, Courtney, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
And I would like to start with you reading one of our quotes, so we start with the whole talking. Okay?
Sure. Today, companies no longer compete only for local talent. They compete for global talent, but they're not always ready to receive it.
Okay. So, with this quote that we have read, what do you think about it? How does it make you feel, and how does it impact on your life or on your history here in Mexico?
Okay. Because of the area that I work in, which has to do with translation, people from different countries, from different cultures coming together and trying to communicate, what I take from that quote is that a lot of times companies are prepared logistically for receiving people from other countries. They think they have processes in place, but they take for granted that the people who are coming from other countries might already understand Mexico, might already speak Spanish fluently, and understand how things work. And so I think there's a big information gap there when you're hiring from other countries because the expectations don't always match up.
Okay, yeah, I don't understand that part completely. And with this being said, I would like to first understand what brought you here to Mexico.
Well, I've always loved Mexico. Since I was a kid, I came for the first time actually with a church group to come and work at an orphanage, and I fell in love with Mexico. And so when I heard that there was a master's program in translating here in Guadalajara, I thought that it was the best way for me to improve my skills in Spanish, living in a Spanish-speaking country. And so I came to study a graduate program and met my husband. And my mentor at school actually offered me a position teaching. And so that's how I ended up staying here.
Well, it's great to hear that you have always loved Mexico, and it's also cool to hear that you have been here before that, so you get to understand a little bit more of our culture. Mm-hmm. And also I would like to ask you, what was the most difficult part of your first job here in Mexico? Because we have talked about the barriers of the language, but also I believe there could be other things that could have changed a little bit between the cultures and the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot. I was very young.
Yeah.
And so when you're really young, there are a lot of things that you don't know about the fiscal side, the social security and all of those things. And I think maybe the hardest part was just not having enough information. So you start and you're really excited, you're ready to go, you're very motivated, but you're not very good at negotiating a salary. You don't really know what your payment should look like. You're not sure what your benefits are. And so I don't know if that was hard, but looking back now, I think I really should have been more prepared, and there should have been more transparency at my company in terms of giving me the information that I needed to know what my job description was going to be like.
Yeah, I understand that. I think especially because some companies in Mexico believe that everyone's going to have like the same proposal in all of the companies, so they understand that people might don't ask that or so. Also, what surprised you more about the hiring process here? Do you think it's the same as the United States, a little bit different?
You know, I was so surprised by the fact that on a resume here in Mexico, you are able to and sometimes encouraged to include your age and your gender, a photo, and definitely in the United States you are prohibited from doing that. Okay. If you apply for a job in the States, if you tell them what your gender or age is, they automatically take your resume out of the running because there's a lot of laws against discriminatory policies. And so that was a really surprising thing. Another thing that, along the same lines, that I was surprised by, and my company, because they are it's a university that's founded by people who are devoutly Catholic. During the hiring process, they ask some sort of invasive questions that you're not sure how to answer about your religion and other things that, as an American, I thought, this is really, why are they asking me if I have any tattoos? I don't understand. I know what the answer should be, but I don't feel comfortable about them asking me this.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And nowadays, I think that has changed because, of course, laws apply in Mexico different, and now it's not necessary to do that, and it's also discriminatory to even ask that nowadays. But it's true that years ago it used to be common here in Mexico, it used to be normal, and even though they didn't ask you when you went to an interview, you usually say it at first, like, oh no, I don't have any tattoos, just in case. Because usually people used to believe that that was normal. Nowadays the law has changed, and of course we have do a lot of several changes in between the laws that were before. Nowadays it's completely different, which is, I think it's great, because of course it feels a little bit invasive.
Well, and socially it's changing too.
Yeah.
Before, a tattoo might have meant something different than it does now, but that's just one example.
And then what was it like to adapt to communication style here in Mexico? Because I believe here we tend to be a little bit more informal from time to time, or more believing that you get the right to say things that probably you shouldn't. As a coworker. As a coworker.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. First, I think people take a lot of liberties with foreigners. I know something that I get a lot is, oh yeah, of course, you looked so foreign, you couldn't have been Mexican. Or, oh, I can hear your accent. Oh, obviously this isn't your first language, which is something that can feel kind of hurtful, or maybe too personal, and so, but people feel like they're entitled to talk about how well you speak or how badly you speak. And the other thing, I'm gonna have to draw this for you. I know we won't be able to see it on here.
That's okay.
But in communication style, if we have point A and point B, right? I'm trying to get my point across. As an American, I know in Spanish it would be estadounidense, but American, I would get there as straight as I can, as directly as I can. And I always had a hard time, and I think I still do have a hard time, with a more Latin style of communication where you get there differently.
Yes.
And this is,
that's right.
I'm sure you can't see this very well.
No,
but it's you have to, you don't say it directly.
No, you have to go around the topic.
When I handle questions in my job, people from the States will say, okay, hi, good morning. My question is, I'd like to know, how did you manage your success? And Latin American questioners will say, good morning, congratulations on an excellent presentation. It's so wonderful to see you here. I have a question. I'm from Michoacan, and in my experience, I've seen this. And so my question is, and they go on and on, with lots of these little curly cues in communication before they get to what they want to say. So that can be really hard to get used to, and people can find those who communicate like myself that's very abrasive and too direct.
Especially because I think here in Latin America we're used to always starting with a little bit of a chat, because you don't want to go directly, because that's part of our culture, because we feel like if I go directly they might get mad, or they might feel that I'm being informal. So I totally understand that part, and I think of course it's gonna be super different that going from point to point and then going around and around when you just want to get to the point, right?
It takes some getting used to.
Did you feel supported by the company you were hired once you arrived here?
Yes, there were some hiccups along the way, but what I had that I think is really important, and is maybe sort of my main message for this podcast, is I had a really, really good mentor. One of my professors in the program, he and I became really good friends, and he's the one who offered me the job and helped do all the work to bring me on. And so when I had questions, I had someone that I trusted, that I could ask questions of, and who could help me, you know, and advocate for me when I needed it, and I wasn't sure how. And so I think that was a key to me being able to assimilate into work culture at my place of work.
I do believe that for the foreigners, it's hard to come to Mexico when they don't have a mentor or they don't have someone, especially because not only at work, but also the laws here in Mexico and the immigration process, which some people might believe it's easy, but it's not. So I would also like to ask you about that. How was the whole immigration process coming here to Mexico? And then as a student, and then you met your husband, and then I believe you applied for a residency here in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So how was that? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, I went through a lot of steps. I didn't come in on a work visa, so I think my experience might be different from, you know, some of the people that a lot of companies are hiring. I came in on a student visa, and then my student visa, after I finished my thesis, turned into like a family visa because I was already married. And then that family visa went on, it had to be renewed every year. Yeah. And eventually, I think it must have been 10 or 12 years after I had been here, one of the people in immigration said, "What are you doing? Renewing this every year. Your kids are Mexican, you're married to a Mexican, you are a permanent resident. We'll just give it to you." And so that was the only easy part of the process, when somebody finally stepped in and helped. But you know how it goes. I think this isn't just a Mexican thing, because it happens to me when I have to go get my license renewed in California, where, you know, depending on who you talk to on what day, the requirements are one thing or another, and someone will say, "Oh, they didn't tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
Now you have to bring in 2 copies of this.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can't do that now. You'll have to come back tomorrow." You know, so it's frustrating, but I think that's just part of that type of administrative process.
Yes.
But I know when I've been to immigration, I'm not the only one who has shed tears in that office. I think people, they get really frustrated and scared, and it's a really hard process. So that's maybe another thing that I think, I know we're getting to sort of how companies can help onboard people who are coming in from other countries, and I think definitely some guidance, help, support for the migratory process. Doing that paperwork is really important to keep people motivated.
Yeah, that's right. At least here at the Staffridge, we take care of that part. And we have been in those processes, which sometimes they take a lot of time. Sometimes it's not the answer you want to hear, and not the one you want to give it to the foreigner. Like, oh, we have to try again because of this or that. But I think companies like ours are here to always think on the best interest of the other companies that want to hire foreigners. So we specialize on that type of service, especially because we understand that other companies might not know exactly how to do it. And that's when we step in and we say, like, you know, we can help you. We are here. We know the process. We have been there. You don't have to worry about it. But also, it's always telling them the reality of it.